What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Talking Pigskin Week 8 edition. As always, I'm your host, Kishwar. And what did we learn last week? We learned that the Jets can't hold on to a goddamn 2-touchdown lead. Now, 2 weeks in a row, they blow leads and lost the game. I understand they were against divisional opponents, but I was just really happy to know that this team can actually compete. As much as the 0-16 talk was on before the season started, this team definitely isn't as bad as everyone thought, including myself. Sure, it hurt. The last two losses could have been easily wins, but I know as a Jet fan, you're used to this. But I'm just very happy this team is competing week in and out. So hopefully they'll continue that, and maybe this year they'll finish just 6-10. But if you can compete in every game, I'll take that. What else happened last week that's worth noting? Oh, the Falcons are no longer the mighty Falcons, as New England clearly outclassed them on Sunday night. And I would say the Dallas Cowboys, that 30-point victory over the Niners, let's not get too crazy about that. It was against the San Francisco 49ers. So, in a nutshell, Week 7 was a lot of fun to watch. Let's move on to Week 8. Our first game is tomorrow night, where the Baltimore Ravens will take on the Miami Dolphins. Now, the Dolphins actually overcame 2 weeks in a row, huge leads, huge deficit, sorry. So they're actually feeling pretty good about themselves. Believe it or not, Jay Cutler going down could be the best thing that happened for them this season. Matt Moore is actually a very good quarterback. He's also known as a jet killer, and he proved it again last week. As far as the Ravens, they're not looking so great. Joe Flacco needs to turn it around. That offense needs to get going. And defensively, they're just not as, they're not the Ravens that we once knew in the defense side of the ball, but I think they'll be all right. In a close game, I'm going to pick Flacco to take down the Dolphins. Moving on to Sunday's games, and the very first game we have is the Cleveland Browns taking on the Minnesota Vikings. Now, I'm not sure why the NFL is doing this, but you cannot send a pitiful team overseas where our international fans will look at the sport and just judge us really bad on how poor a team can be. The Browns, surprisingly, are worse than previous years. I really didn't expect that. I thought they would actually turn it around, but unfortunately, Hugh Jackson, I don't think he's the answer at head coach over there. So maybe they need to do some cleaning house in the offseason. As far as the Vikings, Sam Bradford is not even starting, and that team is still rolling with Case Keenum. Dalvin Cook is also out. Latavius Murray and Jerick McKinnon stepped in and has been filling in the void very good. So the Vikings, surprisingly, they actually have a very good offense, which I didn't expect. And I'm going to continue to picking them over the lowly Browns and have them as a lock of the week. Keep in mind, the game is at 9:30 Eastern Time. Moving on to the 1 o'clock games, and the very first game we have is the New York Jets taking on the Atlanta Falcons. Now, this game on paper, it looks like a wash, but because Falcons look so hard the last few weeks and the Jets look very competitive, this is not a homer pick. I just think the Jets can actually beat them, only because the Falcon offense has been stalled for the last 3 weeks. Julio Jones just got his first touchdown last week. I didn't expect that. Matt Ryan, coming off a very good year, I think he just, the Super Bowl loss is still haunting him. On the field, he's just not the same. As for the Jets, Josh McCown has been great. He's second behind Alex Smith in completion in the league right now, which is mind-boggling. Didn't need to make that throw in fourth quarter when he threw the interception and set the game-winning field goal for Miami. But other than that, he had a very good game. He was involved in all 4 touchdowns. I'm going to pick the Jets in a very close game. It could swing either way, but I trust the defense to step up and hold Matt Ryan. Moving on to the Oakland Raiders traveling to Buffalo to take on the Bills. Now, I picked the Raiders to win last week. Sure, it didn't look good 59 minutes and 30 seconds of the game, but the last second Derek Carr came through for me and the Raiders won that game. So they should feel pretty good about themselves at 3-4. They're gonna have a tough schedule ahead, coming to Buffalo where Tyrod Taylor and that defense has been playing great. McCoy had a good game himself last week as well. This is going to be a very close game. I know the Bills are favored in this game, but I'm going to pick Derek Carr and company. Anytime you have a great quarterback like him, I think you'll always have the edge no matter where you go to play. So the Raiders over Bills. Moving on to the next game, and we have the Indianapolis Colts taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals had a chance to make some gain some ground in AFC North last week against the Steelers, but Andy Dalton kept blowing the game away. I don't know why. He had plenty of opportunities to make it up, but unfortunately, I don't know. Just like Matt Ryan, Dalton hasn't been good this year either, which is surprising. McCarron is right behind him. He's serviceable as well, but I think they should still stick with Dalton for a while. AJ Green has been pretty quiet this year. He needs to get going as well. They have three great running backs coming off the backfield. They should put more use out of them. As far as the Colts, without Andrew Luck, this team is literally the worst team in the league, as we all know. Could be worse than the Packers without Rodgers as well. There's not much to say about them. They're going to get spanked. Bengals are actually favored by 10.5, so I expect them to cover. Moving on to the Los Angeles Chargers, traveling to Foxborough to take on the Patriots. Matchup of two great quarterbacks, Philip Rivers and Tom Brady. Now, the Chargers actually won 3 straight, coming to the East Coast, a 1 o'clock game. As I told all of you many times before, I don't trust any West Coast team traveling into the East Coast and play an early game, especially when you go to New England. This is going to be very difficult for the Chargers, as much as they must be feeling good about themselves after those 3 victories. I think that comes to an end this week. I think New England, coming off that Sunday night win over the Falcons, they've showed us again that they are the defending champs. They reminded us that they're not going anywhere, so I think the Patriots will easily take care of business at home again. Moving on to Chicago Bears taking on the New Orleans Saints. The Bears defense was amazing last week. A fumble return touchdown, an interception return touchdown, unreal. Cam Newton looked like he forgot about routes that day. So Bears defense is flying high, coming to the Dome in New Orleans. This is going to be difficult for them, but I still think they can hold Drew Brees somewhat, but I don't think Trubisky is going to put on enough points for them to win the game. The Bears will actually play very hard. They have been playing hard under Trubisky, so that's a good sign for them. The team hasn't given up. I think the New Orleans Saints are just really good right now. Drew Brees is playing like himself, as we all expected, especially with other teams in the division struggling. I think the Saints have a great shot at taking over. So I'm picking the Saints at home to win that game. Moving on to the San Francisco 49ers taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. A rookie CJ Beathard start last week, and that didn't make any difference for the Niners. Not sure why Kyle Shanahan is still sticking with this team. He needs to make wholesale changes. He needs to put in rookies. That defense hasn't been playing well. I don't know what's going on with that team. I know John Lynch is the GM, and they will probably have a good future, but all the players they have right now, they haven't been performing. So I think that's a big question mark why Shanahan hasn't been able to make that work. As for the Eagles, best team in the league right now with the 6-1 record, Carson Wentz had an amazing Monday night game against the Redskins, and I expect him to continue that. Eagles will not have sweat against this team. They'll easily win. Moving on to the Carolina Panthers taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Buccaneers coming off from a tough loss against the Bills. They will be hungry at home to get a W. Panthers also coming off a tough loss at Chicago. They want to try to turn things around for them. There's going to be a very good game. Cam versus Jameis. This is going to be a very good matchup. I think both defenses are very good. On the road, I'm not going to trust Cam to pull this one off. I'm going to pick Jameis to win at home. Moving on to the 4 o'clock games, and the first game we have is Houston Texans coming off their bye week to travel to Seattle to play the Seahawks. This is going to be a very tough game. I think it will be a very defensive game as well. In a very close game, I'm going to pick Russell Wilson at home over Deshaun Watson, even though Watson has been great. I just don't trust him in a hostile environment like it's Central Lingfield now, but it used to be known as Westfield. Next game, we have the Dallas Cowboys taking on the Washington Redskins. Kirk Cousins played a good game against the Eagles, but still ended up in a loss. Dak Prescott played very well. Again, let's pump the brakes. It was against the 49ers. This will be a very good game. Both teams are evenly matched, in my opinion. I think the Redskins at home gives them advantage. Kirk Cousins has a hard time against that team, but I think this time he'll prevail. Yeah, I expect him to beat the Cowboys. Moving on to Sunday Night Football, where the Pittsburgh Steelers will travel to Detroit to take on the Lions. Upset of the week, Lions will beat the Steelers at home. only because coming off a bye week and a tough loss at New Orleans, Stafford will be ready to get back on the field. Golden Tate may be doubtful to play, but Marvin Jones has been doing great all year long, so I expect that to continue. As for Pittsburgh, they're very up and down. They're very good on some weeks, and they're very awful in other weeks. So I'm gonna pick, even though the 5-2 record, the record doesn't show what the state is for the team, because look at Martavis Bryant wanting out and all other issues they have. I'm gonna pick the Lions to win this game. It'll be a very close game, but trust Matthew Stafford. Moving on to the Monday night game, and we have the Denver Broncos traveling to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. Chiefs had a heartbreaking loss last week against the Raiders. I expect to bounce back at home. Broncos, yes, I'm wearing a number 18 Manning shirt from Super Bowl 48 when they got trounced. Trevor Siemian hasn't looked good, and that's a concern. He started off the season so good. The Broncos were flying high at 3-0, and all of a sudden everything came to an abrupt halt. Now they're 3-3, looking up in the division where the Chargers are creeping up and the Raiders are creeping up on them. So maybe something needs to be changed there, but I don't expect them to come to Arrowhead Monday night and win that game. So Chiefs will win that game. So the lock of the week will be the Minnesota Vikings taking on the Browns, and upset of the week will be the Detroit Lions taking down the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you think about these picks, and I will see you guys with Week 9 picks next week. Thank you.